of your journey, where all of you were at the other end. So I'm sure our audience would like to know that when you were applying to colleges, what was it about Ashoka that made you think that, okay, this is interesting? And now that you're here, what has really lived up to that or surprised you?
Can
Yes.
everyone hear me? Okay,
Yeah.
yes. All right. So for me, it was the fact that Ashoka did boast about the fact that they're a liberal arts college. This was particularly important for me. This, along with the financial aid package that it did offered. Um, for me, again, as an international student, I was also looking forward to a space that not only encouraged the theory of things, but because of the kind of academic background that I'd had, I was also very particular about sort of putting whatever I learned to practice. And I mean, just looking at Ashoka's website at the time, it seemed like the perfect place. And having come here in person and experienced the pedagogy of learning here, I feel like it did live up to what they say on the website, and in some cases, a little more than you'd expect. And this is important to note because I'm doing very contrasting fields. And when you kind of put that in context, you begin to wonder, like, how do you even make it work? It's honestly just because of the kind of environment that Ashoka creates for students on campus to ensure that that liberal artsness or like interdisciplinary aspect of it is showing through in every day of your life.
Great.
I'll
What
add to
about?
that.
Yeah.
So, hi everyone, I'm Shivam. I'm majoring in international relations, as Kanupriya said. So, I'm sure that many of you in your high school in grade 12, you must have done a lot of MUNs and debates and extempors. So, coming from grade 12 and onwards, you feel like someone who has done political science. You want to explore various other phases of political science. You start questioning yourself whether political science is the right choice for you, whether you want to study it further. For me, one thing that stood out for Ashoka was it offering international relations as a major, and for me to explore all the other subjects along with international relations. And that stood out for me because I could not just I could do what I wanted to do, but I kept on exploring. I'm in second year right now, and I've done courses in sociology, in history, and in environment studies. And I also aim to do a couple of courses in psychology as well. And that is something that, once makes you keep learning and keep exploring from all the other fields and see how other disciplines complement what you want to study. For instance, when I do a course in environment studies, a lot of factors in it contribute in my understanding of what international relations or how the environmental policies in international relations look like. Or maybe a course in neuroscience will help me understand how foreign policy decision making is being done. So these things make Ashoka, for me, stand out from other universities.
Thank you, Shivam. Harshit, Sakshi?
Yeah, I do want to add on to this. So Shivam rightly pointed out on one of the factor that Ashoka is known for, which is it encourages you to explore different subjects. So I came in with the mind that I'm going to do computer science, but in my second semester, I did courses in psychology, computer science, and economics, and then I ended up choosing what I'm doing, which is economics. So what I love about Ashoka is it doesn't confine you into doing certain subjects. It allows you to explore and then make a decision. So you can choose your major until your second year. So right now I'm still confused. Should I do just economics or economics and finance? So even till end, you're not confined into you have to make a choice and you have to stick with it. You do have a space to explore and learn. And when I came in, one thing that I loved about Ashoka is it creates space for you to learn and explore. So we have something called auditing course, where if you love like a course, but you don't want to maybe give exams or you don't want to risk your grades, so you can just go into class, learn and attend. So there's no pressure of grades. So this really helped me to explore some of the psychology courses. where I didn't want to give exams, but I did want to learn a lot. So I just audited the course, and that helps a lot. It just creates so much flexibility where you are not confined that you can only go into a class if you have a major degree of that course. You can go into any class and just audit and like keep learning. You're not, there's just so much flexibility, which is one of the highlight that I love about Ashoka.
Harshit, do you want to add something?
Sure. I hope I'm audible. Yes. So coming to Ashoka, my main thing was that I can get finite over here. Of course, adding upon the auditing part. So being a bio major, I was interested into quite a lot of different things. For example, history, one of them. So I can take a course in archaeology, and maybe I can also take a course in some kind of biophysical chemistry or bioinorganic chemistry. So yeah, that's what.
Thank you, Harshit. I think for what I could understand was that Ashoka is truly a place where, yes, Sakshi, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add one more point that if you come at Ashoka and you think that, oh, there is one course that doesn't exist, then you can even create your own course with the resources available here. So even if there's a course that doesn't exist, you can just create your own course. So that's something that I've never heard of in any of the colleges, and which I absolutely love about Ashoka.
Thank you, Sakshi. Now, moving on, one thing that I could understand was that Ashoka is a space where there's space for everyone when it comes to exploring different disciplines, making your own combinations. Now, interdisciplinary is one of the words that everyone uses when it comes to talking about Ashoka. But what does it actually truly mean in a real student life? What does that look for all of you on a typical week? Yes, Shiva.
In a week, I'd say it depends on the courses that you take. For instance, I'll explain it through an example. And since there was a question on international relations in the chat box as well, I tried to address that, and maybe we can expand on it later. Did I lose?
Shivam, we can hear you. You can go ahead. Okay, till time Shivam is getting back. Yes, Seerath, Harshit, Sakshi, do you want to take it up?
I think I'll go first. So for me, I am a CS Math interdisciplinary major and a minor in psychology. So at Ashoka, we do have a major that's interdisciplinary, which means you're doing half of one course, you're doing half of one major and the other half of another major, and you will graduate as an interdisciplinary major in both. So for me, my interdisciplinary major is math, and genuinely, I feel like since like my first year, not one I can't say one week has been the same. Sometimes you can find an alignment between the courses that you're taking, and other times it's just so divergent, like it's almost difficult to wrap your mind around the kind of, spectrum that you're also exposing yourself to. I'll give a concrete example is, for instance, in my first year, I did an entrepreneurship course, and I also did some math courses as well as CS courses. An entire week would look like me getting ready for a math course or doing a math assignment over the weekend. And by the end of the day, I'm trying to teach something to my professor as a CS math major. Like the spheres are very separate, but as a student, you kind of exist in both spheres regardless. And again, for some people, it comes with its own rigor. And I'm not going to like, hand wave that away to say, okay, it's not rigorous. It is rigorous. And it's one of the things that Ashoka prides itself in, is that, that rigor is what actually prepares you for what real life looks like. So in my opinion, I feel like not one week or not 1, 2 semesters are the same, because each comes with its own exposure or like its own spectrum. And in so many ways, they're very interesting. Like this semester, I have a quantum class, but I also have a intro to psychology class. And the kind of things we're discussing in these separate fairs in some cases would align, like the topics would align, but in other cases they're so divergent that you just question the fact that how could you talk about transportation in, oh sorry, teleportation in quantum, and then you're also talking about dreams and realms in psychology. Like there's always that question in, at least for me. So in that way, I feel like every week, every semester, every day comes with its own, you know, separation, but sometimes alignment. And as a student, it's the kind of rigor you would always look forward to if you're someone who's stimulated by that kind of environment. So yeah, I think that's what the experience is. It's never the same. It's always very different every day, every hour. So yeah, essentially.
Thank you, yes, Edith. Hi, Shivam, we see you're back. You want to.
So sorry. Yes. So interdisciplinary is something that a lot of students, especially even in school, juniors in my school, they often talk about it. What this really means. I'll try to explain this through a simple example. When in my second year, I did a course on foreign policy analysis, which is one of the core courses when you want to pursue international relations as a major. So in this course, you do various academic readings on neuroscience. You do how you understand how individual foreign policy decision makers how they work. At the same time, in a course like War and Strategy, which I did last semester again, there's a specific week in which we try to, understand how neuroscience and war they kind of complemented each other, and how one discipline grew with the help of other discipline, how war and neuroscience were growing together. Now, as young students, who someone who's studying maybe psychology in grade 12, do you see if how these subjects they are complementing each other? Now, if I were to do a course in just neuroscience in that semester, both these courses are going to complement each other. Not only will it help me understand the individual decision making powers or their thinking in international relations, but I can also look at it from a perspective of an individual in a society. So that is essentially what interdisciplinary would mean. At the same time, if I am
Sakshi and Harsha, do you want to just take it up from where Shivam left us with?
Sure. I would actually want to address one of the questions in the chat about interdisciplinary education, which says that does that mean that you're studying half of it, half of other, and you're not learning fully anything? So that's not what interdisciplinary means. It means that you are learning subjects that complement each other. So I'll take my example. If I'm doing economics and finance, I there are certain limit that certain minimum courses I have to do in economics and finance. But if I'm more inclined towards finance, I can end up taking more finance courses or end up taking more economics courses. So, for example, in economics, I might have to do 20 economics courses and 6 finance courses. So, you can design which area you want to incline more towards. But the reason why it's interdisciplinary is because these courses complement each other. And at the end, you can make a choice in which area you're more inclined towards and which area you want to take more courses towards. But there is yeah, you can add. Yes, Seerat, I'm done.
Right. So another thing I wanted to say, I feel like again in my context, because I'm also doing an interdisciplinary major, is so as a CS major, you will be exposed to a lot of things. You know, you might be considering software engineering, or you might be considering, say, cryptography, or you're considering AI, or a bunch of fields are available for you as a CS major. But for me, I didn't know what I would like to focus on. But coming from my educational background, I've always been someone who's done math. I did math up until my 12th. I did math in my A levels. So coming to university, it felt natural to just keep up with the math track. But again, I was also willing to do CS. So by the time I'd reached my second year, I'd done enough of math and enough of CS that it just seemed like settling in between both of those would have been appropriate. More so, as a CS major, I'm also really, really interested in applied cryptography. And anyone who's, exposed to that field would know that you do need a lot of math and a good chunk of CS to be able to flourish in that area. So there are like applicable fields in the world where you do need exposure uh to both sides. So it's not necessarily that you're learning a little less of one, but like Sakshi said, they complement each other and they actually just prepare you better for whatever the world requires from you. So just to answer that question as well.
Okay. So yes, Sira, since you are doing a major in computer science and mathematics, which is an intense but a very exciting combination, we want to understand what's the most fun part about studying these two together and what's been the challenging bit of it.
I'll start with the challenge because then it's easier to get to the fun stuff later. I feel like the fact that it's just rigorous, because the professors you're interacting with they're not coming to like, I can give you an insight. Was I took a course with Professor Bhatia in my third year, and just to explain one example in that class, he read 17 research papers. So when you come to class, you kind of have to be on a certain frequency with your instructors. You have to be of a certain mind frame to sort of absorb as much as you can. And to be honest, it's rigorous. Like that's what I keep saying, that it's not difficult, it's not undoable, it's not impossible, but it's rigorous. And again, like I said, if you're someone who's stimulated by that, you would enjoy it. And yeah, a lot of people here do enjoy that. It's one of the reasons that they do sign up to come to Ashoka. I think another challenge for me is the fact that with the age of LLMs, it's the fact that the field is constantly evolving. There's like, you wake up tomorrow and it's ChatGPT 5 point something you're competing with, it's constantly evolving. And I think in some ways that brings its own level of anxiety to you as a student and as someone who's currently looking to grow in that field. But the fun part is the fact that you reach a state where you realize that you can literally do anything. Is there a problem you want to solve? You can do it. Like, that's what I feel like my course gives me. It gives me this problem solving ability where I've gone to entrepreneurship courses, and in those classes I've had easy A's just because I could do something with it in CS. I've gone to some side courses similarly, and it's just easy to solve the problem because with CS math, you're just always thinking about that problem solving, you know, you're thinking from that problem solving capacity, because literally that's what the entire course is about. So that's really fun for me to feel like, okay, I can go in any field and like dominate. So that's usually very exciting for me. Another fun part really is, again, this is open for questions, but I enjoy competitions, and I feel like a lot of courses offer you that, but unlike CS, where you can literally build any community anywhere, you just find yourself in a lot of, like, you find yourself in a lot of active things. Like even with research on campus, more than often, research departments would always look for CS majors because, like I said, a lot of problem solving. So when you look at the interdisciplinary lens of things, you can find that your day would never be the same. Like it's always going to be something new. You're always going to be exposed to something different all the time, constantly. And for me, that's really exciting because I feel like when I was really young, I made up my mind that I don't want to be a potato couch person. Like when I'm working, like I want to be in the field doing a lot of stuff. And that's what CS Math offers me. It offers me that aspect to be like anywhere, anytime, doing anything, solving any problem in any field, which is really fun for me. So yeah.
That's great. Okay, so since you talked about research at Ashoka, we have another campus specifically designed for the purpose of research, the Trivedi School of Biosciences. Beyond the classroom, how does the academic support at Ashoka looks like? Whether that's faculties, teaching assistants, labs, research paper, what has that support looked like for you personally?
Um, I can speak from two perspectives. The first is as a student. I feel like one of the key things that you would leave Ashoka knowing is that your professors are very approachable. Matter of fact, they're hoping you would approach them, not just because, they want to have a conversation about academics, but they also want to have a conversation about what's happening in the field. And they also bring that experience with them to the classroom all the time. Like I said, one of my professors read 17 research papers to just give us one example based on a question that we asked in class. So you can see that they are as committed to the course and to the major as you are. So in that way, I mean, again, they won't run after you in that way, but they are very, very approachable, and they're looking forward to your approach outside the classroom. Another thing is, in most cases, every course would either have a TF or they'll have a TA, and TF are teaching fellows, TAs are teaching assistants. And like I said, I'll speak from two perspectives. And right now, I myself am a teaching assistant. And so what that means is I have to take office hours outside of the classroom. So for a course, there will be like 6 TAs. You can book office hours with either of them. They're pairs like yourself, and you can engage with them, talk about these things as you understand it or as you feel like you don't understand it. More so, we have taken the course before, so we can give you insight into how best to prepare and stuff like that. Then again, if you feel like, okay, I want to speak more to someone who's faculty oriented, then you can speak to the professor directly because they would also have office hours, or you can speak to the TF who are uh, experts in the field, but they are not necessarily professors. So in that way, there's like layers to the amount of support that you get. And it doesn't end there in terms of like resources. I would let others speak about this, but like you can think about library, you can think about like expos and conversations that happen that are arranged by the societies on campus. So there's always room for you to, first off, stay ahead of the curve, but second, just keep talking about the things that you're engaging with, because I mean, that's how you stay on top of it, right? So yeah, that way your professors, like your teaching faculty is always available. They're always, always available. Like even if you should have emailed to them to say, oh, I didn't understand this concept, they would be readily available to help you a lot of times, all the time, actually. So yeah.
Yes, Harshit.
Yeah, so I would just like to add on a bit. So, as she said, that teaching faculties are always available. So, in Ashoka, we have a concept of office hours. So, you book an office hour with a professor after class hours. It can be ranging from 15 minutes to 1 hour. And then you can discuss whatever personal doubt you have. Sometimes, let's say in a class of 50, a professor might not be able to give you the personal attention. That is why we have this concept of office hours. Most of our faculties here are permanent faculties, and they live on the campus itself. So you might be able to schedule an office hour, let's say at 7 p.m. in the evening with them. Also, since I'm a bio major, I'll take this opportunity to talk about the Trivedi School of Biosciences, or the TSB. This is a new building which was built and introduced when I entered Ashoka in 2024 monsoon. And the building itself in-houses the laboratories ranging from biology and chemistry disciplines as of now. And all the professors here, most of them are also, being the professor, they're also researchers, and they have their own PhD labs, students, and their own research going on side by side. So you also get to work under these PhDs as interns during summer or normal semesters. So apart from just learning theory in subjects like biology and chemistry, you also get the practical exposure of how do you work actually in the lab. Because ultimately, when you go for higher studies, for masters and PhD, you wouldn't be just learning theory. You have to be there in the labs for 10 hours. And so that exposure is practically very important, which cannot be provided, let's say, in a lab course of 1.5 hours. That is why these internships under these professors is really important. And the professors here are so approachable that even if you are, let's say, in your first year, they might offer you an intern position in your lab. They wouldn't obviously check for how much knowledge do you know. They might want you to learn from their lab. So this is one great exposure that Ashoka and the Trivedi School of Biosciences provides. And also, just to like taking away Yesir's part, so for computer science, they have opened a new school just like biosciences. It's called Vachni School of Advanced Computing.
Thank you, Harshit. Yes, Sakshi.
So yes, Siyata and Harshit, I think rightly talked about the academic support that's there. I would talk about the first form of support I got when I came to Ashoka. So in my first semester, I was very confused about my major and I wanted some academic guidance. So what Ashoka does is when you come, they provide you a advisor and an academic mentor. So these are the professors from the fields that you have chosen your major in. So I got my academic mentor who's a professor of economics, and I went up to him the entire semester, talked with him, and through those discussion I realized, okay, I like economics more, and that's the reason why I chose this. So there is also a lot of form of mentorship and guidance that you get, and those mentors are provided to you. You don't have to form a connection and then have a mentor. So it's provided to you and resources are there. So I think this really helped me, the academic mentor that's provided at Ashoka.
Okay, great. Now, since we are talking about internships and academic support, I am pretty sure all of you have done quite internships, quite a lot of internship research, assistantships, or other hands-on work as being students. We want to understand how did those opportunities come to you, and do you feel Ashoka has helped you prepare for them? Yes, sure.
Okay, so we've all heard about this buzzing word that Ashoka is rigorous, rigorous. But I think apart from being just rigorous in terms of academics, one thing that all the students who will come on campus, you'll see that the emails of Ashoka is something that are really rigorous. Every hour, every minute, you will get so much of information that you'll really find it difficult to consume all of it. And that's to take it in a positive way, you see that there are a lot of opportunities because these emails will carry along with themselves a lot of opportunities, not just academic but otherwise. If I were to speak about my own experience, I have interned with Center for Climate Change and Sustainability at Ashoka University, and this is a very important center on campus. And climate change and sustainability is something that all of us are familiar with. How did I come to know about this opportunity? Via email. The centers here on campus, whenever there is a vacancy of an intern or any other position that they feel the students can take up, they write an email to the student body saying that this is the eligibility, this is the work we're expecting from you, and these are the perks that you can avail once your internship is done. For me, it was a 2 month internship. I closely worked with the center manager and the director of the center. Not only did I manage the logistical work of the center, but I also represented the center in the Center Expo at Ashoka University. So you see that a lot of internships that you might do outside Ashoka will just expect you to do the work. But here on campus, you will also get equal chance to represent the center that you are working at. The other opportunity that I got on campus as a second year was a research assistantship. So recently, our head of department in international relations, Professor Quintine Cott, he offered research assistant, positions to his students. And again, it came via email. So it's not like professors or the centers have any favorites or, you get you're handpicked. Not at all. You get emails and then you have to apply for it. And if you're selected, then that's good for you. And this research assistantship that I did with Professor Cott entailed a lot of data collection work. And that is something that all of you will get familiar to when you are on campus. The other thing, I think since all of them, they spoke about sciences and computer science, bio and chemistry on campus, for the students, specifically from social sciences background, academic support and research work on campus is very rigorous in social sciences. You see that the professors, all of them, if you were to even look at their bios through the website, they are engaged in some or the other projects. They're currently working in some projects, and usually they also open positions of interns, in the labs or in the projects to Ashoka students, and that is your chance to, talk to the professors, see whether the project aligns with you or not, and if you can, make your way through that.
Thank you, Shivam. Harshit, you wanted to add something?
Yes, so internships. I might share a bit of what I did. So I got to intern under Professor Vidya Avsare. She is a faculty of chemistry at Ashoka, and her labs does organic synthesis, and they're trying to build a catalyst and trying to see how wide the uses of that catalyst in the organic reactions are. So I got to directly work under her PhDs for summer semester, and also I got to TA for one of the very popular programs of Ashoka for high school students. I don't know if you're aware of this or not. It's called YSP, the Young Scholars Program, and it was a very very nice experience. I got to be a chemistry TA and made them do cool experiments in the laboratory. Apart from that, so internships and all, it's very easy. Like you have to just apply and keep on applying. You might not get the first or the second internship you apply for, but somehow you'll land one or two if you're really willing to. So I think cold emailing also works a lot. Sometimes you might not even get the mail. If you're just interested into a professor's laboratory, just mail them like, okay, this particular research paper I read of yours and I'm interested into applying for your lab. They might end up giving you a place. And also, just one last thing to add. Our university also has something called a research development office, the RDO. If you have a particular project in mind and you think like you don't have the enough funds for that to conduct that research, you might pitch that project to the RDO and they'll provide you the specific funds required for that particular project. I think, yeah, I'm done.
Great. Yes, Seereth, please go ahead.
Right. I feel like what I'm about to say would also buttress the point we made earlier about support. And I think it's key to highlight that like support is kind of end to end. If you're about to think about academics, there's support. If you're going to think about work after uni, there's support. There's work during uni, and there's support for that. Like our sheet highlighted, there's research experience, and there's support for that as well. There's entrepreneurship, and there's support for that. And so one of the key offices that support your career on campus is the Career Development Office. And they also have a branch that supports your postgraduate interest. So if you want to go for postgraduate studies and not work, you can start building a portfolio as early as your second year. So I feel like one of the key things that students on campus are also able to avail of is the fact that you can also reach out to your professors directly. My first internship was because I reached out to my professor directly. And, on campus, it was just like, okay, I'm going to take you to this lab. If you like what they do there, you can over summer intern with them. And that's how my internship started. And like Shivam said, in most cases, they are not even evaluating what you know or don't know. They really just care if you're curious enough to come learn. And because you're learning so actively, you stand a chance to speak about what you've learned, take ownership for your space and your learning as well. So I've worked with a lot of offices on campus, and I can tell you that that's consistent across every office. So I also work with the Office of Outreach. And again, you can take ownership with them. So it's not just limited to the academic section of internships, it's across the space on campus. But not to say that we don't have internships outside Ashoka, we do. So again, if you work with the Office of Career Development Office, you can get internships with really big companies like Berkeley's and uh, Mackenzie, and you can think about DLF, all of them. They come to campus and you can get internships with them as well as placements. But we're just speaking closely about internships on campus because in most cases they are the easiest to get. But there are also internships off campus that are provided by Ashoka, should you be interested in those as well.
Thank you. Yes, Seereth. Yes, Sakshi.
Yes, just to build on to one point that Yasirit mentioned about the internships outside campus. So usually you go on LinkedIn and search for internships outside, but at Ashoka you have a platform called Superset where throughout the year there are internship opportunities appearing there. There are special opportunities for winter break, for summer break. So you don't have to go outside on LinkedIn or other platforms. These opportunities come through Ashoka platform itself, which is Superset. And most of the internships I have got is through Superset, where you just apply and then all the coordination is through the platform. You don't have to externally do anything or go out of your way to find it. All the internships opportunities are provided to you. So that's something which I really like.
Thank you, Sakshi. Yes, Harshit.
Very quickly, I'll add a thing. So, what if like I'm a student who does not want to work under somebody or want to make something of my own? What will I do in such a case? Maybe I want to start a business of my own, but I may not have the funds. So we have a center for entrepreneurship at our campus. So if you have a business idea in mind, you can pitch it to them. They might provide you with the funds, as well as they have the networking resources to connect you to the interested investors. So from there, you can start your entrepreneurial journey. Yeah, and that's like very cool. Also, if you want to, let's say, build something on your own, that's not a startup or something, but a project. So we also have a place at Ashoka where that's a STEM sort of lab, where you make, it's called Makerspace, and you can build your own project, and they have funds to sponsor your project.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just really excited. Okay. So I'm really passionate about the makerspace because I literally grew up there in my stay on campus. And one of the key things that we do encourage is like a making spirit. So as Ashit has mentioned it, I was like, okay, I'll just elaborate on it. And essentially, you can think of like the most industrious machineries, and you can think about laser cutting or laser engraving. You can think about glass cutting, woodworking, metalworking, anything you can think about in terms of like industrial production, 3D printing. It happens at the makerspace. And that's really cool because I don't think I would have imagined that that flavor actually existed at Ashoka when I was looking through the website in my, years back home. I wouldn't have actually expected it. And it just so happens that it existed because another thing is I used to do design and technology when I was younger in high school. So coming to Ashoka and seeing that that part of me also carried forward with me was really exciting. So from CAD, like computer aided design, to CNC, and it's really exciting. And believe me, I don't even think the website does justice to what it actually is. And it's so interesting because now we're building everything from scratch at a new lab at the Trivedi School of Bioscience. So it's a whole new flavor that, there's just flavors to Ashoka that you actually don't see entirely out there until you actually do get on campus. Not to like say it's exclusive, but it kind of is.
Thank you, yes, Neeraj. It truly is one of the most, I think, the fun and where you can actually explore uh, anything that you want to create, you can go there. And since it brings me to my another question, that I know that all of you have been doing so much beyond your academics. Of course, one of the things being the student ambassador, working along with the Office of Outreach, helping us with talking to prospective students, parents, counselors, principals. Now, what are some of the other things that you have been involved in, and which of these things have been the most fun and meaningful for you? Yes, Shiva.
I think it's definitely the clubs and societies on campus that all of us are part of. You come on campus and you are so perplexed. Where do I belong? I mean, in school, you are part of Eco Club, you're part of Rotaract or any other society that your school might have. But suddenly you enter college and you see a plethora of these spaces where you can go and explore. For me, I've been a part of Special Olympics Bharat Ashoka chapter since I came to Ashoka. I started as a member and currently I'm its president. And you see, spaces like these are not everywhere. So, what does Special Olympics Bharat Ashoka chapter do? Just like we have Paralympics, there was a special international movement about Special Olympics as well for intellectual and invisible disabilities that students have. And these are things that many of us are afraid to talk about openly. But we understand that we need spaces like these to also, make our spaces on campus more inclusive and accessible for everyone. And we've been organizing events, stalls, and fairs which is Ashoka's inclusivity focused sports fest. And this is something which has been very close to my heart. That just does not, keep me intact to the academics that I am doing. And this does not even align with the major I am pursuing. This is something very unique. At the same time, I'm also a part of Ashoka Climate Change and Environment Studies Society, and Asia and Warsaw as well. So when you come to campus, you will find a space that is perfect for you, and a lot of these spaces, you end up making your friends. You have your close friend circles from these clubs and societies because you work with them. You're working really hard with them, whether it's about logistics, organizing a fest, so on and so forth. It's really exciting. I just wanted to add one thing on campus. Beyond academics, also a part of academics, you also get to meet a lot of eminent people who you study. Recently, we also had a chance to meet the ambassador of Germany, and this was a field trip for one of our courses. And this is beyond, from academics to beyond academics, where you get a chance to interact with professionals, diplomats, national security advisors beyond your classroom. And since there were a lot of questions about international relations, what it looks like on campus in the chat box, this is what your campus life will look like, not just in books, not just in clubs and societies, but also outside Ashoka, where you are exploring and also questioning these eminent faces about their own experiences. Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, Shivam. Anyone else? Yes, yes, Sira.
Um, I feel like the truth is, and to also add on to what Shivama said, the truth is, whatever you think your space might be, even if you don't know fully what it is exactly when you come to Ashoka, it does exist. And in a case where it doesn't, you can literally create it. So as he has mentioned, there are clubs and societies. Uh, Clubs are separate from societies in the sense like oftentimes societies are like more academic than or they're more, you know, specific to a certain group of people, but clubs are like, you can think music club, dance club, you know, and stuff like that. But like he said, it's usually the space where everything beyond academics starts. And in some ways, it's also the case that when you're part of clubs and societies, you tend to like question everything you're learning. It's always like there's a contrast. Like, okay, so this is what I'm learning in Professor Ali Khan's class, but like this is what it is in reality. So how do I reconcile that? So there's always that, you know, constant toggle between life and theory. But beyond that, I have been part of a number of clubs, Orators, which is the again Orators Club on campus. But I've also been part of, currently I'm the vice president of the grad cell, which is the student facing club that works with the Office of Postgraduate Studies. I'm also part of the Makerspace Club. Again, the Makerspace we already spoke about earlier. I'm interning as a research intern with a professor with DRDO, which is the Defense Research Lab in India. I'm also currently working as a teaching assistant, but again, this is part of a coursework. So technically that's academic, not extracurricular. And again, I work with the Office of Outreach. So in terms of a flavor to a number of things that you can imagine you can do on campus, no one's gonna stop you. You can take as much as you can. So yeah.
Thank you, yes, Sira. Yes, Sakshi, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I would share one of the experiences that is meaningful to me. So one is that this year I am residential assistant. So now you have heard about where you can go for academic support, but what if you have some residential crisis like conflicts with roommates, someone stealing your food, or any residential concern? So these residential assistant is like a third or fourth year living on your floor, and they are your first point of contact for any residential concerns. So I had one of the best residential assistant in my first year, which literally made things very smooth for me, because coming from a different part of India to the Sony path, it was a very different change. So having RA really helped me, and I wanted to create a similar experience for upcoming batches. So I became RA this year, and it has been like one of the most rewarding experiences when just a small effort by you really help someone else. Just I think last week a parent sent me sweets because I have a very good relationship with their daughter. So like RA is like a very rewarding experience, and if you enter campus you would see that they would be your first point of contact for any problems you face. And one perk is you also get your personal room if you become RA, so that's also one of the highlight.
Thank you, Sakshi. Yes, Harshit.
Okay, so I would like to name two offices in Ashoka which look after these clubs and societies first: Office of Student Affairs and Office of Academic Affairs. So basically, non-academic clubs fall under the Office of Student Affairs purview, and the other departments also, for example, the sports department and Office of Learning, we also have some clubs under them. All of these clubs to sorry, all of these offices together work for the welfare of the student body. For example, I think Shivam was talking about the inclusivity. So for that, we have a Office of Learning Support, which ensures that all of your academic needs are met, and if special accommodations has to be provided for your coursework, they provide you. Coming back to the question that was asked about clubs and societies. So I came here from a place like Varanasi. I didn't know where to fit in exactly. So this was my way of socializing. I joined like 10 clubs in my first semester, thinking that I'll find people who share the same interest as me. And it happened also. So it was very rewarding for me, although like 10 clubs is too much. But apart from my four courses in my first sem, I had these 10 clubs. And I would go for all of their meetings, all of their events. And not only clubs, I also joined ministries and fest. So we have very popular fest in Ashoka like Banjara, Ashoka Literature Festival, and ministries, for example, which I was part of, Ministry of Community Wellbeing, Ministry of Academic Affairs. So all of these places you join, and you meet the like-minded people, and you sort of get to learn a lot of from their individual experiences, because as the first day when you join and you find a lot of seniors there, not only just their experiences about courseworks, but about life in general, how to go about like applying for internships or how to even navigate Ashoka. It helps a lot. So it helped me a lot. Also, I think somebody mentioned that we can also live in like create a whole club out of anywhere. So a group of friends of mine, all of us were interested into comic books, and we saw that there was no space in Ashoka for comic book enthusiasts. So we created a comic book club for ourselves, because why not? So perks of being a part of Ashoka.
Thank you, Harshit. So now that we're talking about clubs and societies, we get this question a lot that can we come to Ashoka as a day scholar? So just living in a fully residential, diverse campus environment, how does that influence you as an individual?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I'm not sure.
Okay.
I
So since you all are in a fully residential uh, program on campus, how does that has influenced you as an individual?
Shivam, you can go first. I'll go second.
So I think one of the benefits or perks of being on campus is that you can, stay awake with your friends till 3 a.m. in the morning. You can hang around with them, go anywhere on campus you want, and just chill and have fun. We do have some policies on campus, of course, which when you come on campus, you will get well versed to them. And I think this is the perks, right? You don't have to maybe wait for your friends to meet them, go to their house, or plan certain things out. They are on, maybe some of your friends end up being on the same floor as you are, and these kind of connections and this proximity with your classmates, with your friends, is something that will help you for the next 4 years on campus. And maybe you want to go at 2 o'clock and have chai at chai 24. Maybe you want to go to Domino's and have and grab a pizza. All of this, not thinking that, oh, I need to call a friend. My friend lives in GTB Nagar and I am at Azadpur. You don't have to plan any of it. All of you are together and you can just go anywhere, whenever you want. But of course, not outside campus. You can plan parties with your friends on campus. Maybe book a, let's say you book a common space like the commons in one of the residence hall, and you want to celebrate one of your friend's birthday. That's absolutely up to you. We have been doing it, all of us. Sakshi, Harshit, Yasirat, all of us have seen where we have our friend groups. We go to these commons, we book these spaces, and we celebrate with our friends. And I think this is what helps you and motivates you, that, okay, I'm going to see my friend next day in the morning and we'll be together for the rest of the day. And that really helps you.
Uh, I can, Ashit, you can go, but you can go.
Oh, it was a very small add-on to what Shivam said. So let's say if you plan that you want to watch a movie with your friends, but you're not going to Delhi, you're just on campus. Any classrooms, all the classrooms have projector. Just go connect your laptop and you can watch a movie. It's like a theater experience only, honestly. And also, recently all of you know that matches are going on. So Ashoka also streams matches. So you can just grab your food and like the dining will be serving it the food outside, and you can watch the match being streamed live. So all of those are cool things you can do with your friends. And also just living on the campus gives you this one extra time that you can spend. And for example, let's say you got a group project with your friends. You might have classes till like 6 or something, and then other club commitments, but you're not getting time to like meet for your group project. You can also meet at like 10 or 11, whatsoever time suits you. So for such kind of things also, it just helps. Yeah.
Thank you, Harshit. Yes. Yes, Seerat and Sakshi.
Okay. I think I was just going through some of the questions in the chat box, and I was thinking that this would be a good time to sort of speak about life on campus beyond academics and like all the other things we've spoken about. So to answer a lot of your questions, Ashoka, currently the North Campus, sorry, the South Campus is about 25 acres, and the North Campus has about 10 other acres completed. But in general, we have over 100 acres and they're being developed. So for people who are also asking if, was moving towards the sciences or towards the arts, there is no separation to the campus as such. It's just that these, when you hear like School of Management or like School of Advanced Computing, it's like these schools are more advanced in that particular niche. So it's easier to just call them by that name because you can think about the resources that are available to you there. But as a student on campus, you necessarily have to live here 24/7. Again, I think one of the cool things is, first off, you step away from the bubble of being with your parents, which is generally in life a good experience. You get to live with other people, see other lifestyles, experience other cultures. And for me, that was particularly important because I'm coming all the way from Africa. So it's like you have all these questions and how do you navigate them? All of that with being a student. Again, sometimes it can be overwhelming, but to be honest, generally in life, a good experience. But besides that, if you're living on campus, like they've said, you can avail of all the facilities that are there because they're available to you. So you can always book anything you need to use. But if you're living on campus, you would most likely live in the residential halls. So you can either cook, you can eat with the mess, or you can order food to your room. You can order stuff from outside campus, maybe Blinkit if you want. You can use Big Basket, you can use Amazon, there'll be a delivery room, you pick it up. And going on and off campus, we have shuttles going from campus to the nearest metro, which is Azadpur. So from there, you can get around Delhi. We also have shuttles going directly to the airport. So if you're coming from the airport or going to the airport, you can avail of those. Then again, there are curfews. So kind of live your life within that, but you can't, no one's gonna stop you from going on and off campus if you want to. But otherwise, I feel like life on campus is really, really dependent on who you are. So no one experience kind of fits everybody. For everyone, it's different. Some people are like rigorous with academics, so they barely even have time for other things. And some people are like really fun and vibes and they really have time for themselves. I feel like it depends on you. It depends on the kind of person you are and the kind of life you want to live. But to be honest, I feel like regardless of what kind of life you want to live, there's space for you on campus. And I feel like there's room for you to express yourself enough in that way. Sakshi.
I think yes, that you rightly covered most of the point. But if I just want to add one more thing, I see in the chat there are a lot of sport enthusiasts. So if you're on campus, you can play anytime you want because the facility is available 24/7. Like I often see people playing cricket at 2 a.m. in the night or people playing table tennis till late at night. So if you're on campus, you can do that too. And a lot of sports people go outside to do competition. There's also Ashoka Sports Fest, which is Agni. So when you're on campus, you get to be part of such opportunities. Harshit,
Yes,
you can
Arshit,
add.
go ahead.
Yes. So also I was also going through some of the questions. So I think a popular question is about study abroad opportunities. So Ashoka has a Office of Global Education, and we sort of have signed up MOUs with a lot of universities for summer and semester exchange programs, which is basically that you pay your tuition at Ashoka and pay the residence fees in those particular universities. That's sort of agreement they have, and these opportunities are available across all different disciplines and majors. So whether you're doing STEM or humanities, you'll have some or the other college for that foreign exposure you might be wanting. I think one very popular question is, which I might not be able to answer very properly, but I'll direct it to Yesirit. So, somebody has asked that if, let's say, I'm coming from a PCMB background, I have no background. PCMB is physics, chemistry, maths, biology, and I have no background in computer science, but I want to pursue computer science at Ashoka. So, how beginner friendly is computer science to pursue at Ashoka without any background in that subject before?
Um, I was honestly gonna speak about the same thing you spoke about, Arshit. So essentially, I would say that first off, for anyone who's doing a STEM related course on campus, if you haven't done PCMB or like math, you will be required to take an introductory calculus. That's compulsory for everyone. But one thing that we haven't spoken about in this webinar is something called foundational courses, and these exist compulsorily for everyone. My advice for you would be that you should take your STEM related foundation courses before you start your major in any STEM course, because it sort of prime you into the way some of these professors expect you to think, and like what kind of foundations should you have already laid down beyond what you didn't cover in high school. So in terms of how inclusive the curriculum is, I feel like it carries you along if you do your part, right? If you expect that it's just going to be a breeze in the park, like it was in high school, that's not the case. But if you do put in some effort, do a little bit of legwork here and there, I feel like it's pretty much inclusive. And in any ways, whatever you need to cope with that course is already being provided to you by the department or by the university. So it's not like as if they're just throwing you in the deep end. That's not the case, but you do need to put in the work.
Thank you, Yasira. So we have covered the academics, the life on campus. I think another important question that we come across often is about the application. So when we are applying to colleges, we worry a lot about the scores, the marks, and building the perfect profile for our college applications. From your experience, what do you think that Ashoka is really looking for in a student? Yes, Arshit.
So I come from a CBSE background and again from Varanasi. So at our place, we don't really actively apply to private colleges. So I was only looking for government examinations for my undergrad degree. But then one day, a counselor from Ashoka, they came to our school and they gave us a session about liberal education and how futuristic Ashoka is and about the lab facilities and everything. And the most important thing which I found and the most interesting thing was up to 100% financial aid need based. So because I have never heard of that concept before. So I decided to give Ashoka a try, and it was for the first time I was applying to such a thing because I was not applying to any Ivy League, so I didn't know the process of applying for such colleges. So for me, filling the whole journey of filling the application form to writing essays to the interview itself was very rewarding because I think that was the first ever interview which I gave in my life. So even preparing for that was very interesting. Like I sat with my school counselor and sort of like made her ask me questions of what Ashoka maybe can ask. So Ashoka basically just wants a very, very honest application. Your application does not need to be like some revolutionary thing. No, they just want like a holistic individual who has done something apart from academics as well, not just acads. Your marks at this stage, I'm not sure if you have got your grades or not out of the board examinations. You can put in the predicted scores from whatever the school gives you. So the judgment is also not on the completely on the basis of marks. Or I think somebody asked about like how important are the SAT scores or the other examination scores. So they are a part or the component of your application form, but your judgment does not necessarily come on the basis of that. There are a lot of different components which together combine to create a judgment for Ashoka. And I think something that is really important to focus upon is the interview round, because if your application you have filled honestly, you would be able to answer the questions that the interviewer is asking, because most of their question will shape around from your application form itself, because they're trying to see that, oh, first question, whether it is you who have filled that application form or not, or you have asked somebody else to fill it for you. So, and also sort of scroll the website of Ashoka a bit, because if you're applying to a particular college, you should know the basics 101 of that college. Yeah, that's my advice. Thank you.
Thank you, Arshit. Yes, Shubham.
I completely agree with what Harshit said. In fact, to all of you, just be very honest with your application. For instance, when you're writing SOP, whatever you are writing, be aware of that you might be questioned. They might pick a line from your SOP and they might question you on that. For instance, when I was interviewing for Ashoka, as a sophomore, as someone who did exams, and I'm sure, as I said, many of you must have. I just wrote a line about it that I'm really interested in international relations, and this is something that fascinates me. The interviewer chose that line, and he questioned me on one of the international conflicts, and his question to me was very direct and straightforward: what is India's stance on this XYZ issue? And I was completely blank because I did not know the answer. But what saved me was my honesty, is what I felt, that I do not know the answer of this question. If you try to pretend and you just so that you know the answer in the hindsight of your brain, and you're really trying hard to remember what the right answer for that question is, I think that might be a point where you might start losing your application. Overall, I don't feel that there is any specific point where you feel that your application is very strong or very weak. Make sure holistically you're giving each component of your application equal time, from your SOP to the exam that you're giving and to the interview, which is the most important, in my opinion, is the most important part of your application process. So be honest. Don't ask AI to write your answers. They know who is writing it. Be as honest and as transparent.
Thank you, Shivam. So we just have one last question up that we have to take up. So if you could go back and talk to your pre-application self, what would you tell them about applying to Ashoka? And what would you want applicants watching this to know? Yes.
I think for me, I'll be like, girl, don't be scared. I'd probably just tell myself to be as confident as I was when the deadline was approaching. Start early. And the truth is, you are enough. And in any case, now that I'm on this side, I can necessarily tell you that what they are looking for is that confidence and your best foot forward. If there's stellar awards that you've won and you want to share that with us, go for it. Like they've all said, the process is holistic. So that means they're looking at you as a whole and they're not looking at one part of your journey, but they do care about that journey and what you've made of it. So for me, if I could go back in time, I probably just tell myself to start early. I tell myself to be confident, and I'll tell myself to believe that there's nothing to be scared of, because in the end, it was all a good experience.
Yes, Sakshi.
If I were to give myself a pre-application self-advice, I would be like, don't stress out. Because I remember, because I was applying for CS and economics, for entire 2 weeks, I just went on YouTube and learned every concept that's out there about economics and CS. But my interview was actually very subjective, where they were more interested in understanding who I am as a person, where they asked me about what do I look forward to in a day, what are my dreams, what are some values that matter to me. So your interview can be completely subjective or something technical like Shivam. So just be authentic and honest, because sometimes you want to pretend like you are someone who cares about everything in the world, you want to change the world, but if that truly doesn't come from you, then it will show in the interview. So just be authentic and just be you, because if you try to fake or pretend, they will catch it because they have experience for quite a long time. Also, like, one advice is that because now AI is in hype, natural instinct would be to use AI to write essays, but do not do that. Maybe use it to refine language, but don't depend on AI to write, because they will catch it and that won't look good. So yeah, and don't stress out.
Yes, Harshit.
I guess for the on the spot essay, now they have to go for the centers, so they may not be able to use AI. But an advice which I would like to give myself back in the day when I was applying would be to sort of brush a bit on the current affairs and what's currently happening. Because as an individual, you should know what is happening around you and like your country. So that is some questions which I was not able to answer in my interview.
Thank you, Harshit. Okay, so with that, we come to the end of today's session. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope this webinar was helpful in knowing more about the student life at Ashoka University. Audience, please take a minute to share your feedback with us. The feedback form, the link for it is provided in the chat box. Also, the recording of this session will be available on Ashoka's official YouTube channel in case you want to go through it again or you want to share it with your friends. I would like to inform our audience that the deadline for round 3 is on 22nd April 2026. Since we couldn't take up some specific questions, you can always write to us on ugapply@ashoka.edu.in and we'll respond to you as quickly as we can. Once again, I thank all of our speakers and everyone who joined us for the webinar for taking the time and be a part of this discussion. This brings us to the end of today's webinar. Wishing you all the best for your Ashoka application. Thank you.